picks up a first down.
And I'm going to go back to, we talked to our friends, Charles Bishop and Neely. They follow Jackson State football and having dinner with them. I mean, they said this team feels like nobody can score 3 times on them. 3 times. He didn't say if it was 3 field goals, 3 touchdowns. Prairie View has scored twice. Touchdown, field goal. That's how good this defense is. And, whoa, they are as good as advertised. 4th best in all of FCS.
It got to get to the point where whoever we're doing the broadcast that week of the game, they're going to have to sit down with y'all because y'all know us better than everybody.
Sure.
And y'all know some of the inside stuff
we do.
That I may not tell them because I don't trust them. But
sure. Trust us.
Trust y'all.
We appreciate that.
We
trust.
appreciate that, Coach.
Much love, baby.
Let's get back to strolling instead of scrolling. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your family.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here the BCSN Sports Wrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU, and man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Ville, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Man, we have the Academy back together again.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
indeed. Yes, indeed.
We can truly have our lyceum today, man. Let's get into the lab and get some of this lecture going, get into the work. Welcome to episode 247 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Miata Kabila, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas, as they do it. Let me just jump into it. It's been a good one. I want to get a chance to at least play the audio, if we would, of the video from the post game of Jackson State, LSU. Coach Tamika Reed, she had a drop the mic moment. Everybody has been just jamming on it in many different ways. Let's go ahead.
Doc.
Yeah. So, man, that was powerful. I mean, it resonated with me in so many different ways. Charles, you were there live, and so you were in I'm sure, a heightened emotion in terms of living through the ups and downs, and ultimately not the ability to quite close it out, but being really so close, and I'm sure feeling in so many different ways. But as a professional, as yourself, I know you were like, hey, we got to get to the end where it's 0-0 and make sure we have at least a 1-point lead to really finalize this in so many different ways. And we were literally texting back and forth as I'm traveling from Dayton, Ohio, giving the insights, getting the opportunity to follow Texas Southern University in terms of the basketball, and then coming down on a charter flight, getting into Fort Worth, getting ready to play Kansas would be. So it was just a whirlwind of emotion as we're talking back and forth, texting a little bit of Mike, and Mike doing his thing and laughing and making fun and talking about different things. What was your emotional state of mind? Let me just get straight to that.
That's a great question. Jackson State was 4 minutes and 54 seconds away from history. And it just seemed like the clock couldn't tick down fast enough. I can't say anything because all you really want is an opportunity at the end. And Jackson State had, their opportunities coming down the stretch and just weren't able to, come away with the victory. But I couldn't say they left it all out there on the court. I mean, it was almost a little bit emotional, to see the last seconds tick off because you knew those young ladies, they left everything out there on the court. And it was, initially, draining, but there was the euphoria of knowing that they came in a 14th seed and gave LSU everything they could want and more, and just came up short.
She comes in with the quote and says, we have to fight for our culture, and ultimately closes out saying it's time to come back and knock the walls down. Mike, how did that resonate with you when you heard that?
Man, I think I texted you in the group and I was like, mic drop. A couple of things were going through my mind. I was like, I hope the intended audience receives the message. I was like, I hope that message resonates through, because she took a moment and I don't know if you saw, took a moment, paused, and then gave those statements as if she thought about that for a second and wanted to make sure that it reached the intended audience. I was emotional like CB. To me, I'm not even a graduate of Jackson State, but the effort that them ladies put out there, I'm telling you. I think I also checked LSU wanted no more parts of them. Had they gone, they wanted no more, no more. I know that's bad English. I'm gonna have to get over it. They wanted no more of that Jackson State squad because they gave them everything, left it on the floor, as CB said. And I got emotional because I felt for those young ladies. They had given it all, not only in the season, but during this particular game right here. And they themselves very worthy to be honest, to me, higher seated.
Yeah, you know me as a researcher, and I've made a career literally of researching HBCUs, coming up with terminologies, HBCU sports culture, resonating and putting in journal articles, and to some degree, even having like national magazines and newspapers, such as the New York Times, asked me to provide quotes and framing of this discussion. And that's ultimately what my work is about. And for you to have a coach at that level speak, as you said, and send a message in regards to talking about, it's not just about our institution. We have pride in our institutions, and you should, but that's a general framework. Everybody does that. HBCUs or historically white colleges, I refer to them. But to understand the collective of not just a conference, but HBCUs and above that, and understand what they mean to the community and at large, the uplift and empowerment it can make across the world for the Africana diaspora is significantly huge for me. So for me, it made everything that I've done to this point, it made it all worthwhile. So I will forever be grateful to Coach Reed, no matter what she does moving forward in terms of her level of success, where she decides to have that success, whether it's on the court, off the court, in terms of whatever that may be. I'll be forever grateful for her in front of a national stage and audience, speaking those words to power for me. So I had to lead off the show with that sentiment because it was just bigger than a win or loss. It was bigger than the showcase that she put together. We all knew the team was talented. We all knew what she meant to Jackson State, what she meant to the SWAC, what she meant to HBCUs, what she meant to women's basketball. We all knew that. What she meant to African Americans, other minorities that are seeking to have an opportunity and know they have the skill set and ability to get it done, but may not have access. So to do that meant everything to me. So I won't belabor the point, but I wanted to make sure that we had a chance for our lab listeners, who I think for the most part will greatly appreciate that. It just shows a different context. And this is not to belabor those that may think differently, to understand that they're trying to win as well. They just see the course of winning differently. But when people see greater than themselves or greater than an institution, again, that's just a powerful framework as we move back. As Dr. Carr has talked about in his classes and his lecture unit in terms of understanding Africana studies and the social structure and the governance structure, she spoke in terms of understanding the governance structure versus the social structure.
Dr. Kabir, we've got the video available. Do you still want to play it?
Yeah, we can play it. Play it full score so everybody can see.
hadn't been accomplished in this program and in this conference. But now it's time to come back and knock the walls down. We have to continue to fight for our
that comes from not only the national media, but for a specific media that can speak to them to a different level. So shout out to y'all for getting that done. Let me get into it. I know we're quick and about to get in the break. A couple of things I want to get in there. Obviously, breaking news in terms of Alabama A&M. Coach part ways. To give a little insight to that, Coach Dylan Howard. I got some information that suggests that it wasn't necessarily that Alabama A&M was ready to get for him. They were looking maybe to try to get him to go year to year. He was not wanting to do that. He wanted a multi-year deal. And so at the end of the day, he decided to separate and move ways. So give you a little more context that I'm not sure is out there. Certainly part ways, but that's part of the context. That is part of my source. Having to clear with my source that make sure that they have a name, but I'll get that if it's appropriate later. But I want to appreciate those that continue to make sure that we get information to provide more context than that. The other big news that's out there, and we'll get a chance near the end of the show, really get a deeper dive in that, but I want to make sure we got it out there. Talladega College will play for a national championship. This is courtesy of HBCU Game Day in terms of the breakdown, but a lot of people were watching the semifinals, including BCSN. You had a show yesterday with Brian and AD as they broke down, and they will have a watch party right after our show. Stick with it. We'll get some more insight before the end of the show. But they won a thrilling, the Talladega Tornadoes, HBCU, obviously out of Alabama, was in Kansas City Tuesday night. The number 2 seeded Talladega, 32-5, will face against the number 1 seed Louisiana, 35-1 at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. So again, right after this game, after the show, stick with Brian and AD of Sports Lab. They'll give you a watch party to break that down. They beat Thomas More out of Kentucky 78-77 in overtime. Defensive stop, got it done in so many different ways. Powerful to see. This could be the second HBCU championship of the year. Obviously, Paul Quinn's men got it done as they won the United States Collegiate Athletic Association Division I championship a couple of weeks ago as they defeated Bryant and Stratton Buffalo 80-69. In Petersburg, Virginia, shout out to Paul Quinn College, as Talladega Tornadoes will try to do it at the NAIA level. Fascinating. Really want to get inside this matchup because it's so unique in many different ways, but we'll tease that out, wait until the end of the show. But I will ask Charles some general thoughts in terms of this matchup in regards to Talladega. And when I say about the matchup, more in regards to your excitement for Talladega playing for a championship.
Oh, definitely excited for Talladega to get this opportunity for national exposure. I think it'll be on ESPN3 tonight, but it's huge. Anytime you have an HBCU playing for a national championship, NAIA national championship, it speaks volumes for the program.
Mike, any general thoughts in terms of Talladega plays for a championship?
Go Tornadoes. I mean, they are doing it. They've done it all season, though. If you look at their season, they've done it. They've led that conference and scored. We'll get into some of the X's and O's and some of the critical data points. But, man, just all around, congratulations to the Tornadoes. They're playing a team they've played a couple of times, this year. So it'll be an interesting matchup now that the stakes and the chips are up. So we'll see where the data points kind of lie.
Yeah, I'll be able to get you into some data points. I've taken some notes at the end of the show. I want folks to stick around because there's a lot of ways why this is fascinating. We haven't seen something like this in quite some time, maybe going back to the Big East days in terms where you've seen conference foes play for a national championship. It's one of the last times I've seen it in terms of basketball. So fascinating in a lot of ways to see that come down from that perspective. Before we go to the break, I do want to shout out Brian Johnson. Wendell Davis is in the house. Anthony Weston, Brian Johnson. Lonnie Shaw, what's up, A&T Aggie? Shout out to A&T as they go for a championship. Outdoor, obviously just nipped out in terms of the indoor race they had. Wendell Davis says hello and good evening. Karen Griffin is in the house as always. Juan C. Hill. I see you, Hill. Brother Hill's out here. Ricky Burton. Chuck Hunt in the house. Glenda Lattimore. Herman Shelton. What's up, Fi? Anthony Weston. Kay Johnson, always in the house. Great evening, Sports Lab fans. No doubt about it. Appreciate it. Wendy Jenkins Bishop is making sure she shows us some love. Appreciate it. One of the hardest work.
She coming in to see her boo.
Making sure he makes sure. I like he makes sure you're on point. That's coach. Michael Boyd, who else we got in here? Noel Price, R.B. Parker, Michael Road Dogg Reed is in here. LaShawn Harris, Chad Cooper, Jimmy Wilson is in the house. Yes.
J-Dub.
Yeah. Appreciate you shouting them all out. We'll get some more folks in there. Let's go ahead and go to this first break and come back. I'm going to give you the final poll for the HBCU rankings. Not a lot of surprise here, but we'll make sure we do it and make it official in terms of what we get into the next second quarter before we proceed with the rest of the show. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network.
The top HBCU programs in the nation come to Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium this May 11th through 14th for the Black College World Series. The best Black college baseball teams in the NCAA Division II and the NAIA will battle for Black baseball's ultimate prize. Games will be streamed live at www.mybcsn.net. Tickets are available now online at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat.
Ooh, yeah, that's nice. Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless.
Pick something we all like. Okay.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield, never not working.
They gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let's get into some of these poll rankings. Let's start. Chivalry's not dead. We'll start with the women in terms of how we look at things. No team dropped out this week. Those receiving votes just outside of the top 5 for excellent seasons. Alabama State Hornets 15-15, 12-6. One of the few teams that were least able to give Jackson State a fight. Certainly in the championship game, made it interesting. Had a solid season. Probably not to their expectation. Not even making the top 5, but something to think about as they continue to move forward. Cotton State Eagles 15-13, 9-5. Interesting coming out of the meet. They're just out of the top 5. In terms of the top 5, while you know that you'll have a SWAC team at the top, you actually have 3 MEAC teams out of the top 5. See what y'all think about that. At number 5 is Alabama A&M Bulldogs, 15-14, 13-5, had a solid season. However, kind of stumped their foot, if you would, in terms of the tournament. Still remain in the top 5 at 67 points. At number 4, you have Morgan State Bears, 18-8, 11-3, 72 points. Remain at number 4. Number 3 is Norfolk State Spartans, 17-12, 11-3. Got the NAIA tournament bid, if you would. Lost in the finals of the MEAC tournament after co-tri-champion, actually it was, of the regular season. 78 points remain at number 3. Bring us to number 2, Howard Bison, 21-10, 11-3. This included historical win in terms of the first 4. First time got a Division I tournament win, if you would, in terms of the NCAA tournament. 81 points, finished 2. Got a little bit of respect in terms of getting over the hump as they played for a conference championship last year after winning the regular season, losing to A&T. They won their division, I should say. They come back and get it done. So great move by them. Defeat Norfolk State, who previously won the tournament. So big game there. At number 1, Jackson State Tigers. The Lady Tigers, 23-7, 18-0, 21-0 in terms of SWAC competition. Going back to 30-some wins over the last 2 years. All 10 first place votes, 100 points. Dropped the mic for the coaches. They get it done. Jackson State Tigers. Check this out. They go wire to wire. Number 1 for 12 consecutive weeks in the poll ranking. Final team. So obviously, in terms of the major division, national champion, women's HBCU team is none other than Jackson State Tigers. Kudos to them. I'll start with you, Mike, and then allow Charles to close it up. Go ahead, Mike. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you can stop right there at Jackson State. I mean, what else do we need to be said? What else needs to be said? The rest of your poll, Howard, Norfolk State, you can change them interchangeably. But really, Jackson State is the pride of women's basketball. They're number 1. I think you have Alabama A&M number 5, or yes, and they did step up at times and maybe they closed the lead or the margin of victory at times against Jackson State, but there was no other team that could just match up. Howard had some good moments toward the end of the season, so no issues with the poll. I think it's self-explanatory. Jackson State right now is the pride of HBCU women's basketball right now, and they are without a doubt, unequivocally the number 1 team.
Yeah, what's going to be fascinating before I go to you, Charles, is seeing what other teams are going to do to try to catch them. It's one thing to get to that mountaintop and continue to stress, and obviously Coach Reed is going to find ways to do that. But there are going to be teams that are going to, some are moving in terms of different coaching is one aspect, and the other ones are going to be trying to improve what they do. So it's going to be fascinating to see, how long we can go. But the biggest thing is to celebrate them right now because they're at the top of the mountain. Let me go to you.
Well, I saw a couple of things. They had a couple of folks that recruits I saw on social media. So, and he can elaborate more on that. The question for me is, Coach Reed, keeping there in Jackson State, in Mississippi, can we keep her there, as well as kind of changing their model to kind of mimic or compete more competitively with Jackson State?
I think that's the natural question. I do think that sometimes we get in trouble with the American framing that if you do well at one level, automatically your desire is to go and get the money. Obviously, financial opportunities are big, but I will say this: I've already got a source that has told me that a contract has already been delivered in terms of extension and a significant pay raise. So to think that VP of Athletics at Jackson State University that was just announced on his own accord in terms of a national award at the FCS level for being recognized as the athletic director of the year. If you think he's sitting on his ass, I just want to be frank with everybody. If you just think he gonna sit there and just let her walk out the door without being prepared, which my understanding contract was there already before the game, because he knows. So, come on. Let's think about it. There's multiple ways to look at this, that people not just going to sit down. They're going to make sure that they can do everything in their power to let her know that they value her. And you don't know if she feels that she's finished with the business because she's going to have even more options if she's able to continue what she's doing. And therefore, the options she have may be even more significant than if she just jumped, quote unquote, at anything right now. Didn't want to jump too far out there, but Charles, go ahead and let me know about your poll.
No, I think that's a great point. I echo Mike's sentiments. You can't say anything else about this Jackson State women's basketball team. They've done it all. They've checked all the boxes. One of the top offensive teams in the SWAC, top defensive teams in the SWAC, and more than anything else, they're just scrappy. They died for who's ball. I mean, they literally checked all the boxes that you can think of in terms of what you want in a basketball team. To your point, Doc, just talking with Coach Reed after that game, there's almost a giddiness and excitement to already get to next year in terms of knowing the pieces that she needs to make a legit Sweet 16 run. So there's a whole lot of excitement around this Jackson State women's basketball team because she has a formula. She has a blueprint, and she's trying to follow up on that blueprint. And she's already talked about this team as fashion, like a Power 5 team, and to really put that team out there for the world to see next season, adding some pieces to it. So there's already an excitement that's built up around this program.
Thank you for that. I did want to pick a little bone with Charles Edmond, and that's my brother, Tall Man Radio. Shout out to him, accolades and the recognition he got Texas A&M in terms of them understanding the talent that we already knew that he had. So that's enough in terms of that. But he gave some great dialogue and information on the show, Sports Wrap, yesterday. But I think sometimes we get carried away with this idea that that the whole conference has to bear the weight of playing certain schedules and winning games to get a higher seeding. And while that helps, that's not the final point. I want to bring your attention to these numbers, because sometimes we just get information and we run with things, and I'm not sure if we take the deeper dive. Out of the 32 conferences that are in the NCAA, right? 32 conferences in the NCAA, a third of them get multiple bids. We know most of them, 5 of them are the Power 5, right? Then you have in basketball a couple of more that fit in that 7-8 category, the top 8 conferences, which is the Big East. Sometimes you have the Atlantic 10 in there, obviously the Big West. Sometimes they interchange in terms of what that looks like in terms of what's going on. But that's about it. That means 2/3 of the field are one bid conferences. In one bid conferences, everybody's not a 16 or 15 seed. And so if you're a one bid conference, that means all of your teams in your conference are not playing great. And so even though they're not supposed to do this, they do look at a team's success. There's a reason why Gonzaga at a one bid league when they first started on a run some 20-some years ago, when the school was literally about to go broke in terms of the enrollment numbers, after they made their run and people started seeing that this program was a powerhouse program, even if they played in the league. And then a couple of teams in the league caught up and they got multiple bids. But they were able to get more than a 15, 16 seed when they were just a one bid league in one team. Belmont at an OVC, which is a one bid. Murray State, it had one bid. Murray State got more than a 15, 16 seed. Everybody else in OVC sucked other than Belmont. They had 2 decent teams. And Belmont wasn't even good enough to get an at-large bid to let you know how bad the rest of the conference was. So y'all need to study a little more in regards to all the different frameworks about understanding quad one wins and what does that mean versus a conference versus the individual institution. So if the institution gets the reputation and show what they do individually, they can get it done. So we keep believing like this magic potion in the conference. There's magic potion in maybe 5 football Power 5 conferences and maybe 7 or 8 basketball conferences. And it's not even magic potion. What you find out, it's about the money you put in your program. There's a red line study that was done that said that if you have at the red line, meaning you spend a minimum amount of money, either as a institution or on a sport. Basically at that time it was $1 million in terms of basketball conference, $2.some million. Obviously that's exploded since then. But if you reach that line, you're gonna win like 75% of your games, no matter who you play. And if you do that, obviously you're gonna be in a position where you can get a good ranking. Has nothing to do with all these other magic components. And you do that, that means you're starting to win games, you start to play quad one games and you win more. Then as the institution, you're gonna find yourself a position of getting better seeding, not just the conference. It's more than just that. With that, let's go to the break. We'll come back out of the break. We'll get into the men's top 10 power rankings and maybe a little bit of baseball. And we'll even give these individuals a chance to respond if they want to in terms of those stops right there. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this quick break as we get into second half, third quarter. Let's go.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong. Go get 'em! It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, clean bottom. We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
The top HBCU programs in the nation come to Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium this May 11th through 14th for the Black College World Series. The best Black college baseball teams in the NCAA Division II and the NAIA will battle for Black baseball's ultimate prize. Games will be streamed live at www.mybcsn.net. Tickets are available now online at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
This is Dr. Cavill with Professor Washington, Professor Bishop. Dr. Cavill is inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Professor Bishop, I heard you wanted to shout out to your high school and what y'all doing in Jackson, Mississippi. Told me I just dropped the lecture license, so you told me to go put on my glasses. Put on my glasses while you share to do before we get into poll rankings and any other thoughts you have right now since you pushed my button there. I'm interested in it. You do that all the time.
Let me send a shout out to Murrah High School and their prowess in the SWAC. Mo Williams, Murrah High School, head coach, Jackson State men's basketball. George Ivory, head coach, Mississippi Valley State men's basketball. Formerly Lindsey Hunter from Murrah High School as well, Mississippi Valley State. And then Tamika Reed, head basketball coach, Jackson State women's program. AD Ashley Robinson, Jackson State athletic director. All Murrah High graduates, yours truly. Murrah High graduates, JPS proud. Jackson Public Schools proud.
What's the mascot? What's the mascot of Murrah?
The Mustangs, Murrah Mustangs, baby.
And then you were telling me that is the rival school that Charles? Dr.
Yeah.
Charles,
I Our rival school, Callaway, Dr. Charles McClellan. He's an alumnus of Callaway. Don Brown Thornton, head basketball coach at UAPB, Callaway as well. So Jackson Public Schools representing strong within the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Your president went to public school in Jackson?
Went to Provine High, sure did.
Oh God!
Sure did.
Good,
and what's their mascot?
The Provine Rams.
Now, seriously, lets you know when you have strong and positive influence, particular a concentration of African American Black people that can push you, because obviously we know no fault of their own, but the Mississippi in terms of where they rank education for the masses, which is a challenge in terms of what, like, because not enough people get the support necessary. But look what happens when you get people that understand how to support people educationally in terms of pushing them forward. So shout out when we joke, but that's a point of reference I want to get out there. Let me get back to it and get into as we continue this lecture. I hope folks are feeling it, getting it. Let's get into major division. We had a team that brought it home. Lost some points this week, so let's see if Norfolk State was able to hold on to the #1 ranking they had in week 11 for the final ranking. No teams dropped out. The only team receiving votes this week is Howard Bison, 16-13, 9-5, 60 points. All these teams have winning records to let you know what type of season and how significant you have to be to get in the top 5. At number 5, North Carolina Central Eagles, 16-15, 8-5, 61 points. Ranked number 5, lets you know the legacy that North Carolina Central has put on the table. They had a winning record, top 5, but a lot of people will tell you in terms of Eagle fans, they had a disappointing year. And number 4, Southern Jaguars, 17-14, 12-6, 7-5. Had rumblings that they may not renew contract over there, hadn't finalized or anything out of that. But it lets you know also the type of pride they have in that Southern Jaguar program. They rank number 4, and they're still questioning what they're going to do in terms of coaching. That's kind of crazy. And number 3, Alcorn State Braves, 17-16, 14-4 overall, had a great season behind Coach Busty, coach of the year in terms of SWAC. Great accolades. Second year, getting it done, putting the pressure on a lot of other coaches out there.
Ooh.
Texas Southern Tigers, 19-13, 13-5. 4 first-place votes. They increased the first-place votes, a first 4. The SWAC is in the money. That's 2 years in a row, 2 tournaments in a row, tournament wins in a row. That hasn't been done at Texas Southern University amongst all the winning they've done over the last couple of years, over the last 10 years, between Prairie View and Texas Southern. Texas Southern, for sure, has put their stuff in terms of being a basketball program, and that's under Vice President of Intercollegiate Athletics, Kevin Granger. Oh, by the way, he is from the state of Mississippi too. Wow.
Okay, we're not about to make this show about Mississippi. We are not about to make this show about Mississippi.
Exactly. Let's get out of here. We're going to go to Virginia. Norfolk State Spartans, they do get it done. 24-7, 12-2, 6 first place votes, 97 points. Coach gets it done over there at Norfolk, getting it done, as he also will be coaching, if you would, in terms of the HBCU All-Star game in New Orleans, as Robert Jones will be one of the coaches leading that side of the ball. He was assisted by Fred Watson, the head coach of Miles College, that had a great season. Landy Bussey, that we talked about, will head coach Alcorn State, will lead Team Clarence Pickhouse games. So that's going to be fascinating in terms of that. Robert Jones will lead Team John McClendon, and that's for the HBCU All-Star game. We'll be able to get you a little more information on that. That will be held Final Four weekend in New Orleans at the UNO Lakefront Arena at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 o'clock Central Time. I certainly will have my eyes on that. I have some folks trying to sneak me down there, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to get out on the clock on the road. But let me go to you, Charles. Sticking with you, Charles, starting with you first. What are your thoughts in terms of Norfolk State?
You know, at the end of the year, it's always, we get to wondering how fascinating it would be to see the MEAC champion versus the SWAC champion, and how that would match up. How would a Norfolk State or a Texas Southern have matched up again this year? You know, that tough rugged physical style that we see in the MEAC. Norfolk State with the scoring spread out evenly versus Texas Southern. So I think you would not have. I think your poll ranking is on point. Norfolk State, they proved it from almost, I guess, wire to wire, pretty much for the most part. But when you take a look at it, Texas Southern, they hit another gear normally when they get to the tournament, and it happened again this year. So you take your hats off to both programs.
Great point. Great point. Got it done by 2 first-place votes over Texas Southern University. Mike Watts, you got any problem with the number 1 team, especially after what Texas Southern did close out?
Yeah, I do. I personally think Texas Southern should be number 1. I wish I had a couple more data points. I dug more into it. You look at the style of play, points per game, statistics. You don't have head-to-head. I wish you did, like CB was mentioning too. But there's a reason that 2, 3, and 4 come from the SWAC, with all of the parity, as physical as those teams played in the SWAC. Any team could be any given team this year in the SWAC. I think there's an argument to be made for Texas Southern being number 1. Number 2, that number 5 slot, you could argue that there are about 2 other teams that really arguably could be in that. Howard beat North Carolina Central twice during the season. Didn't play them in the championship. Coppin State ran through both North Carolina Central and Howard. Lost. So you're going to make an argument for Coppin State, even though they lost in the championship to Norfolk State. So you can make an argument for about a couple more teams at number 5. But I would argue that Texas Southern edges out. It would be really nice. Maybe someone comes up with a formula to have this matchup, to see some of the SWAC teams play some of the MEAC teams. That would be really nice. At least the top tier, or what's considered. I'm sure there's subjectivity to it. The top tier teams play, and from the MEAC play some of the top tier teams in the SWAC. Then we can see mano y mano, whose style is best, whose style prevails.
Yeah, I like that. At the least, we need some preseason matchups.
Yeah.
We might between Chris Paul and Michael B. Jordan, a couple of these folks that are putting these games together, and I'm hearing some other stars, other franchises out there thinking about putting some of these HBCU Division I matchups together. At least we can get a preseason matchup, so we can kind of imagine and think about it. Obviously, it would be early on, and you have to play everything back. But, man, it'd be fascinating to see what that looks like. Before we get in this break, I want to tease out a little bit at least about baseball. Baseball is off in the SWAC this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I'm at least give you the updates. We'll get a chance to talk and get into this as next couple of weeks come by and get deeper into it. We'll even give you some softball updates as they've been playing over the last 2 weeks. But you have Alabama State getting off 3-0, Bethune-Cookman at 3-0. Shout out to Mississippi Valley, 6-6-1 in terms of starting out the season. Just 1-2 in the conference race, but
won a series.
Yeah, and that game that they won to make sure they didn't get swept in the series was huge as they come from behind and win in extra innings in an exciting fashion. Probably shocking everybody. Maybe it's just the matchups, obviously. Jackson State starting out 0-3, FAMU 0-3. That was FAMU versus Alabama State. And you had Jackson State versus Bethune-Cookman. 2 tough matchups to let you know what the division is. Then you got Texas Southern, 3-0. Alcorn State, they made a statement, putting up 32 runs, just giving up 1 run off, 20-some hits in that game. So they just pounded Alcorn. Alcorn has a lot of work to do, but we know Texas Southern should be good. But the thing is, it's going to be interesting. They usually start off slow. So imagine if they get going early, it'd be scary. Grambling, Prairie View, Southern, obviously, 1-2. Grambling, Arkansas, Pamela, 2-1 coming into the season. So fascinating to see some things going on there. Give you some update. Top teams in Coppin State, 3-1. Norfolk State 2-2. Maryland Eastern Shore 2-2. Delaware State 1-3 as they kicked off things. Swag on the softball side. Shout out to Jackson State jumping off to 5-1. Alabama State right behind them at 4-2. And that's in the East. In the West, you have Texas Southern sitting at 6-0. Right behind them is Southern at 5-1. It'll be interesting to see how these things continue to churn throughout the season. Will these teams stay at the top, or will some other things have some things to say about it. Let's take this last break. We're going to come back, and we're really going to get into some talk about this Talladega team playing for a national championship as we get prepared to get you into the watch party. We'll come back. I got some interesting notes that I want to talk about this matchup and get the professor's thoughts on that matchup as we get going. Stay with us. We'll be right back as we get into the fourth quarter. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
You see, Head & Shoulders has scalp shield technology, protects against flakes even between washes. It's never not working.
Kind of like us. Number 15?
Never not working.
I don't like this one.
Me neither.
Let's get out of here.
Head & Shoulders scalp shield, never not working.
The top HBCU programs in the nation come to Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium this May 11th through 14th for the Black College World Series. The best black college baseball teams in the NCAA Division II and the NAIA will battle for black baseball's ultimate pride. Games will be streamed live at www.mybcsn.net. Tickets are available now online at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
This is Dr. Bill inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, as well as Professor Drew. AD Drew is in the house as he will be part of the team with Brian and AD as they will do the watch party. So stick with us, tune off and go right back into BCSN. Whether it's on YouTube, my JVN, my BCSN, follow me also on Facebook Live. I wanted to set this up. I'm not sure people realize Talladega and Loyola are the number 1 and 2 teams in the country.
Yep.
It's pretty clear that they are. Loyola comes in at 17-1 in the conference. That's a 94% winning percentage. They're 36-1 overall. It's 97% winning percentage. They have won 20 straight games. Talladega, number 2 team in the country, is 15-3, 83% winning percentage, 13-5 overall. That's 87% winning percentage, 8.65 to be exact, on a 5-game win streak. Their last loss, Talladega, you talking about, man, that's a short win streak. Yeah, they just came off a multiple win streak before that. They lost to Loyola in the SSAC, as they call it, championship game. Loyola's lone loss was back in January 17th against Faulkner University. They got drilled in that game. It was on the road, 92-73.
Yes.
And in that matchup, Faulkner is also part of the conference and actually finished 15-3, tied with Talladega for the second place, to just let you know. But let me give you a little more. Talladega College has lost, as you know, overall 5 games. 3 of those losses are to Loyola. So they only lost 2 other matchups. One of those to Vanguard University, 76-84. The other loss was a road loss to an HBCU out of their conference, Stillman College. They lost 64-57. Both of those losses for Talladega were on the road. And so there was actually a home game scheduled for Talladega January 8th that was postponed. And then you had the other game scheduled February 12th, where you had Talladega lose to Loyola 90-82. That game was in New Orleans. Pretty tough contest as you see there. Sunday, February the 20th, 2022. Talladega gets a chance to get some payback maybe at home, but they lose. Another tough game, 77-71, 6-point ball game. Fast forward a little further, third time to match up, right? That's that conference championship game I told you about, February 26th. Loyola gets it done by 10 over Talladega, 73-63. So they beat them 3 times. You know, you always say it's tough to beat a team 3 times, but Loyola has to do it 4 times to win a championship. And they won a regular season championship. They won a conference championship. And for all that, they go to the NIA National Championship. And guess who they got to face? The team that they had to defeat in the regular season in the championship, and the team they had to defeat in the championship game. So it's fascinating when you talk about it. That's why I said you hadn't seen stuff like this since maybe the Big East, some of those ACC matchups, Final Four. The Big East, obviously, when they had 3 teams go to the Final Four, and actually 2 of them, St. John's and Georgetown. For those Georgetown fans, I know that's not one that you want to remember. Maybe this will work out. Maybe this will work out in Talladega's favor, where they're the underdogs and they find a way to get it done.
Hey,
Charles,
remember
your thoughts?
Oh,
well, I think the $1 million question for me is if Loyola has beaten Talladega 3 times this season, is there just a matchup issue that Talladega cannot overcome? I mean, because you know, once or twice you make you know your strategic things that you're going to do to try to change things up or whatever the case might be, but 3 times now I'm starting to wonder if do you have the personnel that can overcome this team?
Great point. Mike, your thoughts, and Drew, I'm gonna save you for last because I want you to kind of touch this off because you're gonna also talk about what y'all gonna do on the show.
All right, so couple of things, couple of data points. Charles raises a good point. You're digging in the data. So I looked into those 3 wins. Where Talladega lost, rebounded. Few turnovers more. Guess who's number 1 in the offense in that conference? Loyola. Who's number 2? Talladega. Switch it to defense. Who's number 1 in defense? Talladega. Who's number 1 in Loyola. Who's number 1 in three-pointers? Talladega. Edge Talladega. So they play a different style of play. Average height, each team favor Loyola. Leaders, let me share a few data points. Again, rebounding. Top of the top 5 rebounders in that conference, 3 belong to Loyola. Thus, the matchup problem that Charles Bishop mentioned. And if you go to those 3 matchups and dig into the data, that's one of the areas in which Talladega lost. So there are some matchups. You can coach around it, but there are some matchup challenges as well. Scoring, same thing. 2 players that are in the top 5 in scoring in that conference also are in the top 5 in rebounding. So there's points in the paint. Big guys, bigger in size and girth. So I've seen them play a little bit, but there's a matchup issue, and the data points to that. So I think Talladega can overcome it, but they're going to have to change the game. That whatever game they played or scheme they played in these first 3 games, they're going to have to play out of their minds in this game tonight.
Great points. Great points. I told you right here, you're going to get all that data and some. Professor Drew, take it away. Your thoughts on this matchup and kind of give some insights of what y'all going to do and have people to look for to stick around and see the watch party to see if Talladega can find a way to get a pro over these matchup problems to get the biggest prize as a national championship.
But number 1, Doc, you talked about Georgetown, St. John. Do you remember who the 3rd team was in that particular Final Four, Dr. Cavill? That would have been the Villanova Wildcats.
Villanova.
Yeah. Right, the year Villanova won. And let's go back. Villanova lost to Georgetown 2 times in the regular season, once in the Big East tournament, and finally overcame for the ultimate prize. Hey, if this is the one game you don't win, if you only gonna win 1 out of 4, which one do I want to win? The last game. So let's keep that in mind. So let's hope Talladega can do that. You know, this would be, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, the first championship for an HBCU at one of these lower levels since Cheney State in the early 80s, I believe it was 82, if I remember the year correct. That was at the Division II level. We know Virginia,
have NIA. You got to go back to Texas
1977 when your school was it Texas Southern? Was it Texas A&I then?
Texas Southern.
It was Texas Southern. So that was the last AIA championship. So this is historic. We know Virginia Union made those runs in the, I believe it was the late 80s with Charles Oakley and people like that on their team. But this is unprecedented territory for us as HBCU fans to get to the ultimate prize. We saw what North Carolina A&T just did in track, but that's a different type of sport. That's a sport where that's individuals collectively as a team. This is a true team sport, and we don't get here too often. Shout out to Paul Quinn, who has captured a basketball championship this year, but I hate to say it, that was 2 weeks ago. We worried about today. Now we worried about today. I got get your powder blue out, get your red out, and let's root on Talladega. And oh, by the way, Charles, is Coach Prime gonna be watching Talladega game? I mean, he did ultimately get his degree from Talladega, but we want to make sure Coach Prime is watching and rooting on technically his alma mater.
Hey, AD, there's one thing you didn't say. You brought up
I bet you a shout out. I bet you that.
I know, right?
AD, you brought up all this history. I thought you were going to bring out some data points, man. If you look at those 3 games, the margin of victory was relatively...
Everything was less than 10.
Exactly.
10 was the greatest data point. That's something that... and that's a loose ball here. That's a rebound there. That's a missed bucket or defensive stop there that changes the trajectory of those particular games.
So AD, who's the X factor?
Daryl Baker is one player who you definitely want to watch out for Talladega. When the seasons is all said and done, I do expect to see him on some All-American lists.
Absolutely.
Preferably the the first team. So this is the Southern States Conference is going to wind up winning a national championship no matter who wins this. Be the first one for that conference since 2015. Dalton State won it in 2015, and Faulkner won the national championship in 2001 as members of the Southern States Conference. And you're talking about bringing it back to the state of Alabama, where Birmingham Southern won it back in the 90s, won it twice in the 90s. So, this is big. Alabama's a football state. Alabama, a school from the state of Alabama is not supposed to be playing basketball this late into a tournament. So, hopefully this is going to be a great matchup. Hopefully Coach Chris Wright has made the proper adjustments. Yeah, can he find that one thing on film? That's the difference. And with one day of practice, can he get that in a practice and a shoot around for that one? Matter of fact, there was no practice. There probably was only a shoot around because the game was played last night. So can he make that one adjustment or those 1.5 adjustments that he needs to get over the top?
That's this is what we do here. We're gonna make sure we can get out of here because I know y'all gotta start to watch. Let me do this. Starting with you, Drew. Can they get it done? I know we talked about all the ways and what. Yes or no? Do they get it done tonight?
I believe in Chris Wright. I believe in Chris Wright. He's going to get it done.
Professor Drew says gets it done. Professor Washington, did they cut down the nets?
Love them. Great season. But I wonder if Loyola's in their head. So I'd say they fall short.
Professor Bishop, do they cut down the nets? Can they do all the pomp and circumstances? Do they bring a second championship home for HBCUs in 2022?
Loyola's in their heads, Doc. I got to go with Loyola tonight.
Yeah.
Y'all tough. But you call it like you see it.
Yeah.
This is Dr. Neal inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop. We'll tell you on Thursday which one of these three guys got it done in terms of their prediction. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Yada Cavill, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop, with our special guest today, A.D. Drew, who will continue with Brian of the Sports Wrap if they do a special watch party, as this is on ESPN3. But stick with them as they'll talk you through the matchups. And you saw the data points that you got from Mike Washington, the framing you got from Professor Bishop asking those tough questions, and the breakdown historically you got from A.D. Drew. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest in the news. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Mills Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday. So we'll be back on Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's DrKenyattCavil. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter. Facebook and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Mike.
Of course.
Charles.
Lecture.
AD.
Dismiss. Stay tuned. We get ready to go to the watch party.
Hey man, no change up. No change up.
Put your glasses on. Watch party, man.
We holler.